Who are you representing? What are you helping with? In this human rights advocacy course, we're going to be taking a look at the things that you're going to be representing about the people and the ways that you can represent even better. Behind me is a photo by Nadir al-Mudaffar, and this is a 21-year-old Iraqi girl that has painted this, and it reads, "Sexual violence and conflict, youth speak out through the arts." This is a great graphic that I wanted to lead into today's topic, and this is who are you representing? There are 4 different things that we're going to talk about today as it relates to who you are representing. And each of these things, in no particular order, are going to describe and define the types of ways that human service allows you to help. Okay? The first one is those that are left behind. Those that are left behind are people that are, I would say, systematically not helped. These are the underserved, the underdeveloped, and those that are socioeconomically left in a quandary of needing resources and trying to find the things that they need daily. Some of the topics on this is women, girls, youth, the disabled, the elderly, refugees, and the poor. So as you understand, typically in society, these are the ones that are needing to fight a little bit more for the things that they need. And these are considered those that are societally left behind. The next one are those that are pushed behind. So there's a difference between those that are left behind and those that are pushed behind. And those that are pushed behind are the incarcerated, domestic violence victims, those with HIV/AIDS, the homeless, and even the unemployed. These are the ones that are kind of social outcasts and those that are considered, they kind of got what they deserved, whether it be in not finding a job because they're not educationally equipped, or for those that just made a mistake in society and had to serve a little time. These are people that are kind of pushed behind because society kind of feels like that they're not worthy. And this is what's unfortunate. And these are the ones that I kind of grab by the hand the first, because these are the ones that most people don't want to deal with. And this is my bread and butter. The next one is the underserved, or those that are labeled as others. I really don't like that term, especially on a form or a sheet that we have, because the others is like, I'm not even important enough for you to put me in a category. I'm just others, and I'm just in with a barrage of people that may not even fit my demographic, but I'm not important enough for you to find one, so you label me as others. And that kind of hurts. But these are those that are single parents, orphans, indigent tribes, or indigenous people, migrant workers, and those that are undocumented. This leads us to believe that these people are almost single-handedly targeted for things that may not be in their control. And these others are kind of left to the side for society to pick up whenever resources are available. But what are you going to do for those migrant workers that don't necessarily have a place to go, or maybe undocumented, or an indigenous tribe that's not recognized by your community or maybe your politicians? What are you going to do for those that seek to be included but are consequently keep being put in that other section? The last one is your types or peer groups. Now, this is the fourth one. Remember, the first one is those that are left behind, those that are pushed behind, the underserved or others, and these are your types or peer groups that are not deemed important. These are legal, professional, self-advocacy, family friend, or those in your race, gender, or peer group that are not recognized as important in society. Now, I always like to use this last piece as a bridgeway into the dynamics that we can individually hold. Now, of course, I always speak to those that are in my peer group, because colleagues are always very, very great nuggets of wisdom that I hold dearly. And my sisterhood, as I like to call it, is filled with those women that constantly feed me. But what are they feeding me? What are we using in human service, and what are we feeding ourselves to get that human service dynamic to be promoted in society? What are we doing consequently to allow this young lady to feel like that there is justice and an equality that can happen to her? She is truly in a quandary. And even though this is a picture, it is a depiction of how people are seen now. In your peer group, what are you doing to help women feel safe? In your community, what are you doing to allow people that are new to the area, whether it be through a refugee situation or maybe a new person just coming here for the first time? What are you doing to make them feel comfortable in this new environment? Human service doesn't have to be a service work for someone in crisis. It could just be making people understand a little bit better as to who it is that they serve. How do you serve? So the next part is going to be, first of all, who are you serving? And this next part is, how do you serve? How do you serve? Well, there's 4 ways that most of us serve, okay? Experience, need, exposure, and access. And I know experience and exposure tend to be the same, but we're going to bridge this a little differently. So the 4 is experience, need, exposure, and access. These are different ways that you can help, different ways that you can bridge the gap to a better understanding on how you service as a human service individual. Now, in experience, this could be something as little as personal experience. Maybe someone in your family has gone through a crisis. Maybe job related. Somebody on your job is talking to you about something that they're going through. Travel. How about going overseas and seeing it firsthand? Can you imagine the passion you can have in your heart if you go to a whole different country and you're thinking you're going to get some great margaritas and lay by the beach, but you see homeless there as well. And you wonder, wow, I just left that. I thought this was paradise. And you realize paradise has its flaws as well. How about in your school or maybe in your economic circle? These are things that you see every day. And these are ways that you can help in your own circle. And the experience is the things that's going to bridge you into seeing what is the common denominators, what are some of the things that you know can help, and some of the ways that you can be of help. The next one is need. You can serve in a need-based environment as a public safety or health official. You can decrease in affect the thing that's happening. So in other words, if you see someone that's homeless and not being able to be fed, and there's an empty building that's right down the street, maybe you can solicit one of your representatives to get that building open and maybe be a food pantry. So you may not stop those from not eating, but the very thing that we are looking for, the sustainable goal of no hunger, will be met. That's something really easy, really simple. Now, the logistics may take you time, but if your intention is there, the resources will be available. Next is generational. Now, the need for human service in a generational way is very, very huge. Those of us that are bridging into our elderdom and are getting ready to get more gray hairs than we want to, we're seeing that there's a greater need and our compassion is there. But because we're at that age of retirement, we're able to help more. But what about those that are coming into life right now that maybe is 17, 18, 19, 20 years old? And you're seeing that this is a thing that we can get into. We have social media campaigns. We have my all-time favorite is the word of mouth campaign. And this is when you just start the conversation. Bridge the gap by starting the conversation right where you are so that you can see what it is that is needed and how it is that we are going to look at it. All right, exposure. This one I love. Exposure is different from experience because exposure is things that you may see but is not in your daily life. For example, exposure can mean I may live in a very urban environment, but if I'm seeing underdeveloped countries on social media, I can say, wow, I'm complaining because we may have exposed piping in my loft, but these people don't even have pipes. There's no water. The only thing that they have as far as running water is the creek that's down the road, and that's not very healthy. So we have to see that even though we may not experience not having pipes or not having an indoor toilet. We still can be exposed to it through social media. Another one is public outcry. You've seen this on television when people are just so fed up and they scream at the top of their lungs, and you see them crying on the streets. They are in such dire pain, and the only thing that videographers can do is just record the incident. Now, some of us say, oh, it's so inhumane, especially pictures like this where you see women that are being filmed and being looked at in such a dire need. You just want to stand up and just grab her and just take her and make her better. But sometimes you have to listen to that outcry in order to hear what it is she's really asking for. Sometimes it's not a hand out, it's a hand up. And if you give her that hand up, she'll be able to help herself. All right, the next one is a humanitarian mission. Now, I know some of you are familiar with humanitarian missions. We have Doctors Without Borders, we have the Peace Corps, we have AmeriCorps. We even have a thing here in the United States called Job Corps. And these are humanitarian missions to get people exposed to life in ways that they wouldn't ordinarily do. This is getting them out of their comfort zone, allowing them to see what it is that's out there, and allowing that exposure to be their education. And even in the Peace Corps, you get credit for college by doing this. So these are ways that you can get out and make your humanitarian effort more feasible for you. And the last one is opening a nonprofit. Now, of course, we have a thing called NGO, non-government organizations. We have community service organizations, which is CSOs. But opening a nonprofit, it doesn't mean no profit, be clear. A nonprofit means that all of your fees, funding, and grants are going primarily to the mission. So even though let's say you get $100,000 of it, $90,000 would probably go to the mission. The other 10 would be logistics and costs. And these are the things that we are looking for now in society. We're looking for young folks to start nonprofits, to be able to feel this mission, to help us, help humanity and the communities at large. And we're also looking for those that are looking to bridge the gap to what it is that we are missing and what it is that you see through your exposure and your experience. This is where you fit in the greatest, and this is where we're looking forward to seeing you. And the last one is access. Access. Now, this is more powerful, and I kind of saved the best for last. But how you serve through access is through your local, domestic, international, and foreign means. This is in your church on the corner. This is in your community service organization down the block. This could mean if you go to the Boys and Girls Club and maybe you tutor for maybe 2 hours a week. You grab 2 children that you see is not doing too well in your local communities, and you just tutor them in whatever service area that they need. This is where you take someone by the hand and you lead them to maybe a drug and alcohol rehab center. And this is where you can get them the best help and maybe sit with them. Little things that you can do to make a difference in the world are things that most people don't think twice about. And these are the things through access, through local organizations, through community outreach, through international means, and through foreign affairs. These are ways that you can step into human rights advocacy. You can bridge that gap and allow each voice to be echoed and the muted and oppressed voices to finally be heard. I'm counting on you, and this is something that we need to make clear. I thank you so very much for your time here today. This is the conclusion of video 1, and it's who you are representing. Remember that there's a question and answer down below underneath this video. Make sure you answer this question fully. And I ask that you take some time on the question and all the questions in this series of videos. And make sure that you allow for yourself to be clear on what it is you want to write. How are you going to expand on experience? How are you going to render access? What are some of the exposures that you can speak on how to help? How do you represent in your NGO, your CSO, your local community organizations, in your houses of worship? How do you give yourself or lend yourself time to those that were left behind or intentionally pushed behind or labeled others and not worthy to even have a label? What are you doing for these people specifically? And how are you helping in your human rights advocacy world? I'm Dr. Amina Ali. Thank you so very much. I look forward to talking with you soon.